What's happening, gang? Welcome back to the Social Club where everybody has a voice. I'm your host, Serg, and I'm going to be your MC on this weekend Sunday special. I know, it's been a while since I've been on the set. As you can imagine, it's been a rough few weeks here in Kansas City. But it's a new day, and we're well beyond that disturbing Super Bowl loss now. So I've got zero Chiefs propaganda for you today. In fact, I'm following up on a request I received from some friends and family who wanted me to give my personal take on this new release we received between Drake and Party Next Door, Some Sexy Songs for You. Now, I've been seeing a lot, and I mean a lot of mixed reviews on this across my feeds between Twitter and Instagram and Facebook all week long. And I mean, obviously, per the beef, I think that the Kendrick stands are still putting in overtime. I'm not really sure why, because they're still not in the same league, but that's not what I'm getting into today. I just think all that hate is really overshadowing this gem we received because I think there's a lot of appreciation being left on the table. But you guys know the deal. Before we get into the good stuff, go ahead and smash that subscribe button down below. Make sure you get a quick click on all the social media profiles. That's Facebook, that's Twitter, we're on Instagram, and don't you dare forget Discord, where you can stay in the mix about everything up and coming with the Social Club. Guys, we got a lot on the docket that I'm sure you will not want to miss an episode on. Now, I'm sure most of you were able to put together that I, Serg, am indeed a Drake fan. I often refer to myself as the dark skinned Drizzy, although I'm not from Canada. I'm from good old St. Louis, Missouri. But with that said, I do still know all of his songs. But I think I speak for the entire fan base when I say that we can all agree this was a classic. It was a classic in the first 24 hours it dropped. I mean, let's be honest. And what I think I appreciate about the fan base the most, at least from everything I've seen on my Twitter feed and my Instagram feed, etc., is that they understand the purpose with this project. This wasn't a get back project. It wasn't something they just threw together. I mean, hell, a lot of us have been waiting for this for years. I know they did the sneak peek at it whenever they were on tour, and they kind of gave us a little hint that there was something coming when it got chilly outside. That was back in no, not October, August last year. But I think any Drake fan, long term, and Party Next Door included, this is something we've been waiting on since 2013 when P&D first signed a OVO label. So it's great to see that, 12 years later, it finally came through, and my God, did they deliver. I mean, guys, the songs have incredible replay value. I mean, they're so relatable. It's music that I can turn up to, it's music I can listen to in passing. And I think once again, we received that album from Drake that's just one of a kind, something that nobody knew what to expect, but we all knew it had to be pretty good. And once again, I woke up last Friday morning and I was like, oh man, Drake did drop last night. Turned it on and God damn it, I haven't turned it off yet. So I really appreciate the fan base behind that because from everything I've been seeing across the feeds, you guys understand that this was something that we needed. You understand the value of having good music back in the industry. I mean, don't get me wrong, the beef was fun. I mean, it made summer last year real tough. I mean, Kendrick had some really great kicks out of it, and Drake had a few himself too. I know Drake ultimately lost in the end, but aside all that, I think that we did kind of get away from the manifold of what good music entails, and this put us right back on path to have a 2025 with nothing but good tunes coming. And Drake, I'll say this if you ever watch this, I think I speak for all of us when I say, brother, take your time with the solo album. I know you said you got something else coming that you want to say by yourself, and whenever the time is right.
And eventually when the time is right, Drizzy Drake alone by himself is gonna have to have a one-on-one talk to y'all. When the time is right.
Just hang on, okay? We can hold on to this for quite some time, probably another 9 months at least. Now we can bring it back to the album, some sexy songs for you. I mean, guys, the numbers, they literally speak for themselves. And I'm going to say my phrase, these are things that we can do research on. In fact, I did do the research, and there's so many accolades and achievements this has already received. I couldn't even remember all of them to just riddle it off my head like I know it. I had to write it down. So I'm going to read these off to you. But the first one I want to bring up is not one that can be measured. This is something that I think a lot of fans would appreciate. This is not the first. This is not the second. This is the third time Drake has given us a classic on All Star Weekend. Yes, it was All Star Weekend if you missed that last week. You take it all the way back to the beginning, you have Thank Me Later. That's early Drake. That's Drake on his first album. If you don't consider So Far Gone an album, it's technically a mixtape. But thank me later if you dare sit there and tell me that doesn't have classics and hits riddled throughout it. You've bad taste in music, and I never want to talk to you again. That's a hit. And then you have If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. We weren't even expecting If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. That was a surprise drop, if most of you remember, because just the summer before in 2015, we had just got What a Time to Be Alive. I mean, I know Drake and Future had their falling out, but for years we were begging them for What a Time to Be Alive too, because the first one hits. Bro, I was still listening to Jumpman. I was still listening to 30 for 30, Plastic Bag. My God, Plastic Bag was fire. I was still jamming to that when If You're Reading This Too Late dropped in February. That's it. And don't even get me started on it. If you're reading this is too late. That's top three for me. We don't need to get into that now. But consider that is one and two classics he's dropped. This is the third. Already a classic by the numbers it's doing and all the reactions we're getting on the feeds going across the internet. Now, I get that's not something you can measure. A lot of the Drake fans would probably really appreciate that stat because it's true. I mean, you can't get past it. Those are two of his most iconic projects. Make this a third one. But let's get into the statistics you can actually measure because that's what matters, right? That's what matters. So you have This Being is the fastest album to touch number one this year. It did it in under 7 hours. Guys, I want you to recognize that means most of us were still sleeping when this was still climbing the charts. There were a lot of people still staying up, jamming this out, and there was enough to put it at the number one spot before half of us pulled our head off the pillow. I mean, I get it. It's February, so to say this year, 2025, doesn't say a whole lot, but if you look at the Billboard 100, they consider Bad Bunny and The Weeknd to be two of the most streamed male artists of this generation or all time or whatever else. They both dropped albums this year. And I'll tell you, The Weeknd's album was fire. I was jamming the hell out of that before this dropped. I still turn it back on, but not often because of this. But that said, Drake already surpassed them, and he did it before half of us even got out of bed. So that deserves some recognition. Let's keep it going. 250,000 copies sold first week. That means since Friday, there have been 250,000 copies sold. That is insane, guys. That is literally insane. And keep in mind that in the first 10 hours, I was going to say in the first week, but it's not in the first week. It's in the first 10 hours. This album reached number one in 50 countries. 50. And now currently on, this weekend, the week following, that is now number one in 62 countries. It is still rising to the top, and that's on Apple Music and iTunes. And in fact, I do believe Spotify even came out and they have him now as the number one male artist as of last week, and this album also number one on their charts as well too. They were throwing some shade for the first week. They weren't updating his numbers. A lot of the fans that I was seeing all the, around Twitter and whatnot, they know what I'm talking about. But Spotify came around. They're finally showing some love. Now, this is the first artist to reach 100 million streams in a single day. That means last Friday, Valentine's Day, the day that, everybody gets together with their loved ones, goes out to dinner, has all the special time. This motherfucker right here reached 100 million streams. And you know what? And that's only this year again. But the last time that happened, that somebody reached 100 million streams in a day, was in October of 2023. Guess who did it? I'll wait. It was Drake when he released For All the Dogs. I mean, guys, the proof's in the pudding. And I'm going to use my catchphrase here. These are things we can do research on. I encourage you to. Now, with that said, let's take it from the big scale. We can break away from the big scale for a minute. Pim. If some of you listen, you've heard Pimmy's Dilemma. It's one of my personal favorites. It's one of those solo tracks that he lets an independent artist hop on there and do a nice little interlude. Pimmy did. I mean, well, not Pimmy. That's the nickname, but Pim did an incredible job with Pimmy's Dilemma. Let me just say that. But prior to that, Pim on Spotify had 30,000 monthly listeners. For an independent artist, that's pretty. I mean, that's considerable. That's pretty damn decent. After the first day, by Saturday, Spotify released that Pim, her monthly listeners went up from 30,000 to 1.8 million. That's in a day. I mean, like, guys, what argument are we making here? Forget the phone. I mean, forget the stats. These are things that you cannot make up. Like, it's insane what this man can do in the music industry. And for anybody to hate on that, for anybody to discredit that is beyond me. I think what tears me up the most, and I'm getting a little bit off track here, is that a lot of these Kendrick fans that are coming from under the rock, and they're, woo woo Kendrick, and they can't get enough of him. He's the greatest artist to ever live. You motherfuckers were jamming Drake too. You were jamming Drake heavy. This is the most I'm gonna say because this isn't what my segment's supposed to be about. If you are a Drake fan and if you're a Kendrick fan, you know Drake is literally the one that put him on. Drake took him on tour when he was a nobody. And I'm a fan of Kendrick. I said it before. I love, Good Kid, Mad City. Damn, the album was fire. I mean, Kendrick has always had my respect, but I've never once even thought of them being on the same platform. I mean, we were talking about the modern day Michael Jackson. This man Drake is nuts. I just wanted to bring some attention to the fact that the numbers don't lie. These are things we can do research on. The man is making history every time he touches a microphone. Now, what I'm not going to do is go into the whole Drake versus Kendrick beef. I'm not going to go over, who won the battle. I'm not going to dive into who I think is the better artist, although I think it's pretty evident. You and I both know what side I'm coming from there. But that's not what my segment is about today. My segment is about some sexy songs for you. So I'm going to get into the album review. Now, I'll be completely honest with you. I can't go through every single song. I mean, the album itself is an hour and 13 an hour and 13 minutes. And it would take me at least twice as long to go through each and every song to break down what is special, why it's an impact, etc. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to just go through some of the biggest hits that we received. I gave out some honorable mentions in between there too that I think both the fans and myself really did appreciate. I don't have the set list memorized, so bear with me. I got to scroll through it here as I talk to you. But let's start from the top. CN Tower, masterpiece. And I say that because CN Tower did exactly what it was supposed to do. If you look at Drake's past on Project to Project, his intro track is known to be one of the best songs on the album. Now, do I think CN Tower is one of the best songs on the album? That's hard to say because there's a lot of good songs in this album. But with that said, I will say I think what was special about CN Tower is that it set the tone immaculately. We got a really good taste of that dark, that raspy OVO Toronto R&B sound between both Drake and Party Next Door that they hold really well throughout the label. And I think it just did a really good job of setting the tone and setting the narrative of what we were going to be expecting. I mean, it was a Valentine's Day drop, so we knew it was going to be love songs, but I think that was just a really smooth way to bring it into it. Masterclass on how they brought that up there at the beginning of the project. Now we jump down a couple songs. Let's talk about Something About You. Something About You is in my personal top five. I mean, you got some classic, slow Drizzy. He's got his monotone vocals going on. He's got a fire verse to kick it off. I think that verse is one of my favorite on the entire project. And then you got P&D, a damn good job of picking up the tempo with the beat switch. The beat switch is crazy. And he held it really well all the way through to the end. He had his ad libs kind of echoing out at the end of it too. I mean, that's special. I think that the two of them really did show, multiple songs in a row at that point that this is one of those projects that you're gonna get the best out of both artists. And my God, they delivered. I already said that, but I'm gonna say it again. I personally think that Spider-Man Superman, that's probably one of the best songs on the album. Not just because of the song itself. I think the song itself is amazing. I mean, the sound of it, the lyrics, the thought that was put into that is obviously impeccable. But I think what's really slept on here is the production. It's an incredible string sound you have in the back. From the jump, you know it's an R&B slower track. But if you hang around for a bit, you stick around towards the end. Drake fans, you understand this. For those that aren't Drake fans, might have just turned it on for your first time. You probably wouldn't. But this motherfucker sampled his own song. Like, bro, let's take a moment. In the end, that motherfucker sampled his own song, man. And it's one of my favorite songs from Take Care. I'll note the only other time I've seen him do this, Georgia's Interlude, and that was off the More Life album. He sampled Doing It Wrong. And that was an incredible sample. He didn't even rap over that. That was just in the background of the track and the outro, just playing in the background. The Real Her. The Real Her. That's it. Impeccable song, man. That to me is top 10 Drizzy of all time. And I say top 10 because there's a lot that goes into the top 10. The Real Her, to sample that in the background going out of Spider-Man Superman. I mean, wow. Hey, hats off to the producers. We can also talk about Deeper. Deeper to me, I think is it's something that a lot of Party Next Door fans were really happy to see. Even myself included. I am a Party Next Door fan too. But with Deeper, I mean, it was a solo track. I wish he had more personally. personally. I mean, it was kind of Drake's album, I get it, but I wish we did get a little bit more party, especially in that bag. That motherfucker P&D, I mean, the only thing he showed on Deeper is that he can go deeper into the bag when he needs to. Because man, there's really no words. That's just one you guys got to go back and listen to if you haven't already. And if you did graze over it and you didn't really appreciate what it was, go back, listen to it again, read the lyrics with it, whatever you got to do. That song is a hidden gem. That's going to be my first honorable mention on this project because it's one of those that sticks out from the rest to me. I do want to get into the mid set of the playlist here, and this is one that a lot of you didn't catch mid track list. Drake fans, I know you caught it because you listen to the lyrics, you listen to the songs as they kind of come together. We understand that Drake's his projects are a single piece of art. It's one single piece of artwork, and it's different tunes and different sounds, different bangs and clangs throughout it, but it all is one song in the end. But what most of you didn't catch is this motherfucker told a whole story between four songs mid-track list, from Pimmy's Dilemma down to Raining in Houston. And I'll break it down for you. I got the time on that. And Pimmy's, his girl is begging him not to go out because she knows exactly what that leads to. Then you follow that up. Brian Steele, he literally acknowledges that she's right and that he's probably gonna, be around the wrong crowd. He probably shouldn't go out, but he's gonna be with the guys, so he has no choice but to do it. Then in the hit, and it's one of the hits. There's I want to say there's two or three hits on the whole project, but in Give Me a Hug, that's definitely a hit. Give Me a Hug, that's him out at the club with the boys, and he's turning up, man. I turn on Give Me a Hug, I'm jumping around the house. I can't wait to hear that in the bar because I'm in an acting and it's going to be a great time. Give Me a Hug is him literally out at the club with the guys. It's telling the whole story. And then if that's not enough, Come Raining in Houston, it's literally the day after. And Raining in Houston, it's the day after. That's literally the argument between them about him going to the club, her being upset about it, all the mess and whatnot she knows that's going on, and this, that, and the other. This is just, it's another incredible way to put together the storytelling between these projects, because a lot of the music that I feel like we're lacking in the industry is not music that's relatable. It's not music that you can really sit down and dive into and actually envision, the story behind it. And if none of that's enough, in the end of Raining Hughes, he comes out, no, in the end of Give Me a Hug, he comes out with the I Miss You sample. Another incredible sample from Drake and his producer. Dude, that comes on and it's instant slow jams. I mean, hell, your parents know about I Miss You, and that's one of the greatest songs of all time, in my opinion. It's one of those slow jams that they play at the old folks club on a Saturday night, but it flowed perfectly in the band. And although it had much different meaning than what the original was. Doesn't matter. He sampled it, he killed it, absolutely killed it. This is literally what I would consider poetry in motion. Literally poetry in motion. Now you got Meet Your Padre. This is the one I've gotten. I appreciate Meet Your Padre, but it's probably one that I do just listen to in passing. And a lot of fans, they would say this is probably the one song that stuck out to them they didn't really care for. I appreciate it because this still shows that Drake is multi-genre king. He dips in his reggae Hispanic bag, and although it's not the exact same tone as the rest of the project, you got the Hispanic twist. He's got a P&D in there, a sprinkle of Chino Pacas. I mean, it really hit it on the head just to show that he does still have that reggae tone as well too, which he does again, and I'm going to get to that later. Now, I'll say I really this is another hit on the project. I really feel like I don't have to say anything about Nokia. Nothing. I feel like there's nothing I have to say about Nokia. It speaks for itself. Truthfully to God, if you aren't trying to find out where the function is, leave me alone. Get out of my section when I'm at the bar. I don't want to be around. You thought I was going to act up when Give Me a Hug came on? Wait till Nokia gets played. That is a jam, man. And if you don't want to jam to that, leave. Get from around me, man. I don't want your energy. Die Trying, another masterpiece. I think that this one is not slept on by any means. I think it got a lot of appreciation, and I think that derives mainly from the fact that this is not his genre at all. I mean, we've seen, pop Drake in the past, but this really goes into like boy band Drake almost, and it's a really good tune, man. I will say I genuine to God can't wait for what 3-4 weeks to pass, maybe 5, when spring's finally here. It's a bit warmer outside, just so I can roll the fucking windows down and blast that out my car, because that's what that feels like. That feels like a bright Sunday afternoon, and I'm just driving around town. That is what I get from Die Trying. It is such an incredible tone, and for him to step out of his normal zone, which again, we shouldn't be surprised by, but for him to step out of that zone and dip into this bag, that's something, not in his forte. and to perfectly execute speaks volumes in itself. If you haven't listened to Die Trying in an accepting or a valuable manner, go back. Go back right now. Somebody Loves Me. That feels like it's in my personal top three. I don't think there's anything particularly special about it that I can really point out, but the way that P&D and Drizzy just meshed on this one, it just really had a nice, catchy sound. It's the perfect fit. Honestly, they executed that wonderfully. I think that there's nothing they could have done better on Something About You, but it is in my top three. It's one of those songs where I can't even tell you why. I just love the sound of it. I love the tone of it. I love everything they're saying. And it just had a really good melody. Again, the production on this project is impeccable, guys. We can't look past it. Glorious, again, he's showing his talent across the spectrum. You look at Glorious, that's him in his drill rap, his UK rap, which Drake fans we've seen before. More Life had plenty of it on there, and it was pretty cool to see him do something different, and he did pretty well because he had his little his moment where he was in the British rap, which is a great community to be a part of. I think us Drake fans aren't new to the style by any means, but it was really cool to see him go back in that bag. Not that I would think he would lose that flow by any means, but I think that this was just a reminder he's still got that in the back pocket. He can still dip his toe in just about any pool and he'll swim. Now, I'll wrap this up, and I know I've skipped over a ton of songs. Like I love all 21. I can't go through all of them, but I'm just going through the ones that stuck out to me the most and what I saw the most reaction from. Greedy. This is me. This is Serg. This is me talking to you. I'm gonna die on the hill. Probably an old man. I will die on the hill that that song deserves a Grammy. It is the most perfect outro I've ever heard. It's the first song I learned all the words to. I couldn't stop playing it. When I first played the album through, listened to it all the way front to back, and when Greedy played, I played Greedy back for I think like an hour. It's a really nice low tone to go out on the same sound that we've been listening to for the past hour. I don't even know why it just I don't even know why it needs a Grammy. It just feels wrong not to have one. This gives me Take Care Drake vibes, Heartbreak Drake vibes. Then you got P&D again picking up on the up tempo. The beat doesn't even necessarily switch up. It just adds a couple kicks to it. To put a bow on the album in that manner, I don't think they could have done it any better. Absolute masterclass. It's absolutely impeccable. I mean, guys, I can go on and on. I'm gonna wrap this up. I think I speak for all Drake fans when I say that this was a classic album, and I also think I speak for all Drake fans when I say if you don't appreciate it, put your bias aside, go put your headphones in and listen to it front to back. If you still don't like it, take and after you take all the Kendrick hate and bias out of your system, fine. You just don't like Drake, whatever. But if you are a fan of good music, of good tunes by any means, go give this project another listen because it's absolutely worth it. I'll say if you can't appreciate it and after all that, then and you're still on your Kendrick bandwagon thing, whatever, then you simply just don't like good music. That's a problem for you and God to figure out. With that said, guys, I'm going to stop fanning over Drake in this new project. I'm probably going to go put it back on. But before I do get out of here, let me know what did you guys think about the album? Do you think this is Drake's top four, top five album all time? Do you think it's a little bit further down the lane? I've been seeing a lot of different charts that are trying to, grade where he's at in his discography. I also want to hear about you. What's your top three? I'll be happy to share mine. I'll put it in the comments down below as well too. I know I'll tell you now. Greedy is number one. Greedy's hands down number one for me at least. So I definitely want to hear what you guys are feeling from that as well too. Ultimately, do you guys think that this is probably going to be start it, I don't think it did it, but I think this puts a bit of the nail in the coffin on the whole Drake and the Kendrick and the hate and the beef and whatnot because we finally got, a piece from I know Kendrick dropped his project, but Kendrick's also still been on this tangent. The Super Bowl show was, a chaos mess in itself. I think this in the new year, being a February drop, being the tone and the energy that it brings to the sound waves we're hearing, I think this is the first step towards good music being back in the mark. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree? Do you think that we're finally going to be able to break the threshold and get back to having good tunes? But all that said, guys, I'm going to wrap it up for today. Thank you for tapping into another episode of the Social Club. This has been Serge. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I'll be with you guys again soon. But in the meantime, go Drizzy.